I'll do it.
Yeah,
yeah, buddy.
This is the administrative committee. My name is Connie Hall. So we're going to call this committee to order. On the agenda is the EMS administration program and EMS business advisory, and that will be Hudson Valley. So we'll speak about that.
Good morning. At the last meeting, a subcommittee was formed to begin to develop a structure to strengthen leadership within state EMS. It's been a multifaceted group from throughout the state, and there has been tremendous progress just in the last quarter. So we elected to share with the group here, and then Jamie will share with the greater group this afternoon the progress we've made, the way we're moving, and what our intended outcomes are. I've got a few slides to go through to kind of put together how this whole thing will work. And then I have at the very end some demonstration slides that will show how we can go out and actually reach out to leaders, as well as a booklet that's already been developed in draft form that will reach out to small squads who are challenged, and we'll be able to help them specifically. So the first thing is, I want to give the quarterly report of what we've accomplished since the last meeting. And we have had 2 in-person meetings in Charleston, each which have gone a couple of hours, and 2 conference calls. Very good participation from everybody in the subcommittee, and tangible deliverables have come out of this group. We have a structured plan in place now for 2 major projects that are on really quick timelines. We don't want to delay this and let it drone on for ages. We've got very specific timelines for what we're trying to do. And it comes up into 2 main categories. The first of which is leadership training modules. So many of, especially small squads, someone who's been there for a while or is very active is dropped into a leadership role without any leadership preparation. We want to try to help those individuals, as well as those who are placed for the first time into senior leadership, managerial or executive groups. We want to be able to strengthen those as well. The other is what we're referring to as the business assistance team. The business assistance team will be made up of subject matter experts in specific business-related areas. When the Office of EMS gets word that there is a squad that has a challenge in a specific category, and I'll go more in depth into this, that they will reach out to members of the business assistance team and get somebody to go to that squad directly to provide on-site help to them, mentorship to them, be a resource to them to try to help them break out of the challenge that they've had. In order to allow us within the subcommittee to understand the needs better of the small squads that's challenged, Dylan Hanley, the director of Mason County EMS, has joined the group to make sure that we're on the right track. Dylan's had some significant financial challenges within his program, so he's kind of the sounding board as to whether or not we're doing the right thing. So the first leadership module structure we have is leadership modules for supervisors. This is designed in 8 individual modules and is set up to be delivered over a weekend at a conference. So if your agency or a nearby agency would have a new supervisor that's going to be assigned to their group, they can attend a weekend session. Subject matter experts can deliver them the basics of supervision in about in a weekend, and it is designed to be presented in totality or in a refresher. So if there's a supervisor group that needs a refresher on the basics of human resources, it can be tailored in that way, and it can also be delivered in remotely as well through the internet. Whoop, hit the wrong button. and we have custom slide designs already developed, and I'll show you those as well. The modules for the supervisor piece is social responsibility to the community from the squad, the basics of leading others, the basics of human resources, the basics of business finance, medical direction, logistics, business documentation, and critical thinking. So the whole idea is a new supervisor in a weekend is going to be better prepared to lead their individuals and grow professionally through the delivery of these core teaching structures. The completion schedule for the supervisor piece, the deadline to deliver the slides to the greater group is October the 10th. The first course for supervisors is going to be delivered this fall at the Canaan Instructor Conference. They're going to be the guinea pigs. Each of us on the subcommittee have specific assigned topics where we have to deliver the slides to our peers. That way everyone within the group is fully accountable. We're going to get feedback from this instructor group. We'll adjust it as needed, and that will launch the plan for the manager and executive training model. So the leadership modules for managers and executives will also be 8 modules, but it will be significantly deeper in content. It is designed for a 5-day conference or a probably 10-week web-based training delivery system with specific subject matter experts doing each individual module. It can again be presented as a standalone or as an ongoing refresher if need be. The modules we've identified for the new managers and executives is organizational structure, personnel recruitment and personnel retention, customer and patient service, and attaching measurement matrices to those. More in depth on the basics of human resources, we've discussed adding in legal implications into the management and executive realm on that. More in depth on business finance, including long-term strategic financial planning, as well as governmental relations and the structure of government and how it fits into the EMS world. Structuring education delivery within a squad, and expectations and processes for quality medical direction. So this will be a lot deeper program, but not only will we deliver education, but the hope is we'll be able to deliver structured mentorships as well. Oh, last thing there, legal issues and corporate compliance. Sorry about that. So the completion schedule for the managers and executive program is the spring of 2018. Again, we want to take the outflow from this fall course, work the winter on massaging the supervisor course to meet that needs, move into the executive side. Now, the other piece of this that I mentioned at the outset is the business assistance team. These will be volunteer leaders from across the state and subject matter experts that will be available to go on site to a squad at no cost to that squad and provide on-site assessment support and hopefully ongoing mentorship. Broadly, we're thinking that squads have challenges with human resources, with finance, with education, with development and implementation of clinical QA and QI programs, as well as a medical director mentorship for new medical directors that are entering the EMS space. The completion schedule for the business assistance team, we will be ready with this structure by August of this year, and that will be distributed, the information on this will be distributed by the Office of EMS. And one of the ways they'll do this, if they go in and do an assessment on a squad for an agency licensure, if they determine that they've got financial problems, the Office of EMS will then inject the business assistance team into that. The squad will receive access to this set of flip cards. This is a fresh draft. I literally got it from the graphic designer last night at 7 o'clock. So there's some challenges on this, but it is designed to be a flip chart. It says at the top, did you know? And for example, the first one is, since 2014, over 40 emergency medical service agencies in West Virginia have permanently closed their doors. And it gives an example in paragraph form of why that is and why that's a challenge to the local squads and what the business assistance team can do to try to help that. So as the office sees a need, they can reach out to subject matter experts. And those individuals will be on site, again, totally volunteer, no reimbursement for anything, just trying to improve EMS in the state. So we're excited about that as well. That will be ready by the end of the summer. And Jamie will have this if you would like to take a look at it. This was designed to be a flip, but when it came out of the printer late yesterday afternoon, they printed some of these upside down. You're going to see some funky stuff in there. Just know this is 20 hours old. So, but we have made really good progress. The other thing is, as far as the custom professional graphic design structure has been developed with input from those that are on the group. I want to run through these. These are some of the modules that will be presented to both the supervisors and the managers. And each one of the modules has a custom design graphic on the left-hand side. And as they go into the content, for example, in HR, that graphic moves down to the bottom left for continuity all the way across the slides. You can always look at the graphic on the bottom left and see which slide set you're on. All of this was delivered at absolutely no cost to the state, and we intend to keep that all the way across. We don't want the office to incur any cost on this at all. We want to do this as concerned EMS leaders in our state who feel like that this service is worth saving, and that we need to work together and invest from ourselves to try to help squads that are in need. So that's all I have. I tried to keep it to 10 minutes. I hope I got close enough to that. Any questions I can answer very quickly. Okay. Thank you for your time, and Jamie, thank you for your leadership.
Who else on your committee?
Everybody that's on the committee stand up. I know Dylan's here, Beth is here, Rich is here. Kristen Stevens from our office is the linchpin that keeps us all going in the right path. But this has been from the time that this group was appointed 3 months ago, I'm telling you, we were at work the next week, and it's been really solid delivery, and it's been exciting, and I hope that all the subcommittees do that. We've got big problems in this state, and we got to get to work, and I think we are. So,
I like to give my hand.
Clinton, can I have one thing?
Please,
Okay.
please.
One thing about this is, if you look at that may kind of mirror a little bit if you're familiar with the management pillars of leadership, but it's not that program. There's a lot of components. We looked at probably 4 or 5, something of that nature. I don't know the exact number, but it's going to be helpful for us to have that input on different programs so we can pull our material and make sure that we're not breaking copyrights and things of that nature. So any help that we can get, we appreciate, and you can find any of us and we can help you out, or you can help us out, and you need your help too.
Thank you all.
Thank you. There was a suggestion by Melissa for quality assurance, quality improvement, attaboys, as far as that goes. And actually, I'd like this group here, after Melissa gets done speaking a little bit on some of this, to maybe come up with some suggestions on what would be considered a job well done. Because when everybody thinks of quality improvement, everybody freaks out because they think they're in trouble over something. Well, we have a lot of good people that do a lot of good things every single day. So I think that sometimes maybe we should lean toward letting these people know that. So at the conclusion of this, I'm going to ask for some brainstorming on this. So I need your help with that.
Well, before I get into that, I'd like to ask for your input on another issue. Because this group has done such a good job on this program, a few years ago, Dr. Tierney had come up with the idea of an administrative certification level for those folks that are the official reps, training officers, no longer serving on the trucks, just doing the administrative piece, to have an administrative certification level to make it a little bit easier for them to recertify. So I would like to ask that we consider utilizing this, evolving it into that, rather than having two separate tracks. An administrative certification level and then the staff training officer program. So any thoughts, feedback on that?
Are you,
I'm
are
seeing
you
heads
saying,
nodding.
are you saying that there would be hours towards paramedic or EMT recertification that could be taking place with this track, or?
I would like to see us explore that to see if that could be an option. Rather than coming up with, Tim did create some modules for us for the administrative certification level, and that has been rolled into this program. So rather than see all that work go by the by, if we could make one program out of it, that I think that would be to our benefit.
So basically, I didn't understand it either at first.
Right.
But Dr. Tierney guaranteed everybody that they would create a separate certification just for EMS administrators.
Okay.
Those are people who do not provide patient care.
All right.
So there has to be a course to go along with that, along with a refresher type thing that would meet some kind of requirement for those people to get an administrator certification. Okay, and then that would be another level of certification at that point. It just makes sense to use this course, if they complete both sections of this course, that would get them this administrator certification.
So-
Because it's going to meet all the requirements outlined there.
That would make sense. So the theory though is like you get a scope of practice, say for CP, community paramedic, which is another set that's a little different. So does that mean that if I want to maintain my paramedic, I would have to maintain my paramedic if I was going to go on the truck?
Right.
But then this would be blended in.
Exactly.
And my card, would I get a card that says I'm an administrator, or is it more of a certificate, or is it an idea that, say that I lost my paramedic or was no longer able to keep it, could I just be an administrator within an agency, or those are just some things to throw out is this going to be like C3, CP, and CCT, where you have to have one level and this is an additional certification in EMS, or is this going to be a standalone where a squad could bring somebody in?
It was my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, it was my understanding that this was simply a certification for those who are squad administrators who are not practicing EMS in the field.
Okay.
So they would have some kind of qualifications for that position.
Show upon
and
a-
training to help them proceed and move forward in that area of expertise.
So is this gonna be mandatory? Is this gonna be a recommendation by OEMS? You know, you have a lot of squads and their administrators have master's degrees. Are they gonna be required to take this in the
No.
future, or?
Well, right now, it's not a requirement.
And kind of one of the things we discussed in the subcommittee was there's already points established in agency licensure for squad managers that have taken additional courses. And there's points available for that. The problem is it's very broad. Theoretically, you could take one hour online HR course and get those points. So there was some very quick discussion that maybe we could work out a structure where the more training that a manager has, that higher point total. That way it's commensurate to the training that they're getting. That was some of the discussions.
And again, it all keys back to licensure because there's a big variance. Some people are very, very happy to get the minimum and keep on going. You know, some squads, mine in particular, I have a city manager says, you better get 100%, anything less than that is not acceptable. Not everybody's like that. So there's a big broad range there of how you can accumulate those hours, and maybe we're not identifying where squads are really having some issues. with that. So now if we can identify that early and get them some help and have programs like this out there, we benefit the whole system.
But essentially what you're saying is those of us who ride a desk as well as an ambulance, this is nothing more than just an additional education that's being offered. This
Right.
is not, this doesn't affect my CCT or my MCCP certification at all.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just extra
So it's a
training.
standalone.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was just wanting to clarify.
Correct.
It's just like Missy that does our certification. She'd like to get some type of understanding of what being an EMT is. So like for a technical standpoint, it could maybe play into that too. Same kind of.
Any other discussion related to that?
Can I just interject? And I'm brand new to your meetings here, but I'm Shane Miller. I'm the official rep for the Boy Scouts of America Southern Baptist Reserve. I'm also the fire chief of the city of Mount Hope. So I'm trying to understand the complexity of all these certifications that we just keep appearing. C2, C3, EMBO, EMR, EMTM, EMTB, EMTACT. I mean, and now let's go on even more. So I'm just confused as a local guy taking care of patients. How is this benefiting them? How is it benefiting our EMTs? How is it benefiting our communities to keep adding on these, I don't know, layers and hoops to continue to jump through? That's what I'm concerned about. And there are already models out there for EMS supervisors, ASM programs. There's a lot of things already out there. And are we saying that we adopt a model similar to what the fire service is doing, which says you have to be a fire officer 1 to be a line officer, a fire officer 2 to be a chief, but you have to be a firefighter to do those. So my concern would be we create a certification that, the way I'm understanding you're saying, that says you don't have to be an EMT. You get this EMS administrative certification. Is any other state in the union doing that?
No, this is above and beyond. Somebody that's been an EMT for years, they're now their official rep for the agency. All they're doing is administrative work, and they're no longer working on the truck. This is a means to improve their knowledge, their expertise in that particular area to help the agency and the community to be sustained.
Okay, so is there a program you're going to teach roll out? It'll be a
Yeah, that's what,
this program there.
right.
But you don't have to be, so if you're not, so this is for guys that are no longer doing they were EMTs, and this is basically a retirement kind of, from the field position, certification. This is, okay, you're no longer gonna touch a patient, but you can take this class and this will allow you to administer. But so if you've never been an EMT, you can't take the certification.
Well,
This is kind of new to me. This is the first time I heard it, but if I heard it correctly, it's just a way for people to advance their knowledge in emergency services. I think that anybody could go online and take this course, whether you were an EMT, whether you were not. Now, you can either take it to build your knowledge, take it to enhance your squad.
Right.
Right now, they're saying that it's not mandatory. Whether it's going to be mandatory in the future, I have no idea, and I cannot elaborate on that
Which
because
is
I
probably
don't
the
know.
direction it's going.
It may or may not be.
Yeah. So let me just, and I don't want to get off too far from where you're at, but I've been doing this for a quarter of a century, just like a lot of you guys have, worked with you out there. And I can tell you that, and the reason I'm here today is because I'm concerned about where we're going. You know, in 1995, in my little county, in my little community, there were 2 advanced life support units, 2 paramedic units with EMTs and paramedics on those units. Today, I've got a BLS unit. And this story stretches clear across the state about how we're out of touch with what's going on in the community. And I think this is a clear example of we're focused on an administrative type situation instead of delivering care in the streets and then getting these trucks where they need to be at. So I'm just concerned where we're going. And that's all. I just want to interject that. I'm confused about priorities. Just put it that way.
Rich?
And I'd like to address a couple of those things, because you bring up some good points. One of the big focuses in our group, we've not talked in our group from the start about the word certification. Okay, what we talked about is additional training. And the other piece of that, and Clinton was pointed out earlier, there's a lot of good value to programs. I've taken ASM, some of the other people have, and the NIMSMAS training and so forth. We're not devaluing any of that. If somebody's had a chance to go through those courses and the programs have allowed it, that's a wonderful start. What we're trying to do, and what a big focus of our group has been, is how do we do this for either free or as cheap as we can to offer these agencies who have no opportunity to train their people in administrative roles and say, hey, here's the way we do it. And this is kind of the best way we can piece that together, so that if you have an agency that has 20 employees and you have people that are running it in this day and age, they need to know how to do that, because there's a lot of agencies going under, and there's a lot of agencies struggling with these financial implications. And part of that reason we know is because of reimbursements and things of that nature. But the other part of that is that a lot of our people don't know that those things are going to be problems. So what we're trying to do was, in our group, was to focus on ways to make it so that you, or whoever that may be, could take this training, not cost you much at all, spend a weekend learning that your guys, could be better supervisors without facing human resources implications if somebody says the wrong words, or knowing financial implications of documentation, for example, in the world of Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement, when we're a heavy state in those reimbursement categories. And see, there's a lot of that lack of knowledge, and I think that's where our group has been focused. It's not been about making something expensive or challenging or cumbersome. It's been about making it simple and cheap and effective to
Right,
some
and I
business.
just to clarify, I think what you're doing is a good thing, don't get me wrong. I think there needs to be an expansion of those kind of skill sets that are brought to the local squads or to whomever. But my concern is when we start tying a certification to it. I'm here for the government, I'm here to help. And there's a lot of that, and it may be free or at low cost.
Add the words.
Yeah, it may be free at this point, but that doesn't mean it will continue to be free in the future. I'm just saying that there are a lot of cumbersome things being put on squads that isn't helping deliver care in the street. And
Sure.
And that's I'm not taking anything away from your program. It looked good. I think it's neat. I think it's valuable. But I think that if we're going to adopt those kind of models and say, hey, we think our EMT supervisors should be trained or should have some level of training, which I agree, just because you're a good paramedic doesn't mean you're going to be a good supervisor. But I think that we should adopt other nationally accepted programs and say, okay, just like the fire service, once you get your firefighter 1, your firefighter 2, your fire officer 1, fire officer 2 to hold and maintain those positions. So, I just want to voice my concern initially that, hey, here's another standard we have to meet, and it's optional now, and we're being very much told, but it could be a requirement later on. Well, it means it will be a requirement later on. I mean, so I want to look out for, my squad that does 100 EMS calls a year, so that's just another requirement for my volunteers to have to meet, another obstacle for my people to continue to have to meet, more unfunded mandates. And then we're saying, oh, but you don't have to even be an EMT to get the certification. I mean, that to me seems a little, I think the program's great, Clinton, but I want to clear out the when it comes, but I think certifying it for credentials for it, I have reservations.
Well, and thank you for your comment, Shane, and I think the analogy I would use to answer your question about trucks getting to sick people, I think actually this will help that. I think that if we have an increase in business and supervision knowledge among the leaders in rural EMS, I think they'll do a better job. I like the philosophy of a credential that is optional, that shows that squad is investing in their leadership. I mean, face it, Mount Hope is better because you're there, okay? But you can probably in your mind, as can I, think of 5 other volunteer departments that aren't excelling like Mount Hope is because their leadership is a little not up to par, maybe a little suspect, and we all know those folks. We're just trying to raise the bar across the state. I don't see this in my mind now as being anywhere near mandatory, but I hope that a lot of people take advantage of it. I hope that the classes are full, because we need better leadership in this state if we're going to keep those trucks going. How to do recruitment, how to do retention, how to educate your staff. We're putting people in supervisory roles in rural EMS in this state that don't have that business background. And hopefully, in a fairly finite period of time, we can educate them, mentor them, give them contacts, know who to call if they get stuck on something. And hopefully it'll raise the tide across the state.
Yeah, and I want to applaud you guys for doing that, because I think that's the right thing. But I think the delivery piece is where I would be more concerned. I think these
And we
classes-
talked a lot about the ASM and that. We think it's too costly for these squads. We don't think we can afford it.
I agree. But
The
I think-
travel and everything, we just can't, we don't think they can do. We've got to find that
I
midpoint.
agree, and I think the delivery piece is better suited for your models to do in classroom environments such as Escape and other public.
As do we.
events
As do we.
where you're trying to make, and then I think we can say this is awarded for, this class meets the requirement that for licensure, inspection, whatever, section, whatever.
Mhm.
I think that is much better as opposed to, I guess I'm just concerned with just another layer that just keeps being iced onto our cake here. And you know, it's very difficult. It's tough, especially, you know, for me and my 100 call a year non-transporting service. It's tough to meet those standards.
It is. I think there are some leaders out there that would like to have some sort of credential to show they've achieved this, to take back to their board of directors, to show that I am a credentialed state EMS administrator. I think that would be attractive to a lot of people. I just think that as time goes on, we're 3 months into this, I think we got to find the sweet spot. But I would not be a proponent to make that a mandatory requirement.
The last thing I want to say about this is I'm president of the West Virginia Ambulance Association. I'm very pleased that you've developed a program to help squads. It's not rampant, but in the state, I average probably 6 calls a month from squads, and they're the smaller squads. They're in rural areas where they're struggling with one issue or another. Sometimes I have the answers. If I don't have the answers, I find the answers for them and I try to guide them. And some of this takes a lot of time when you do this. There was one squad we worked with for almost 2 months. And I'm really not for sure if they're going to be able to function or continue. So thank you.
Thank you for that. It's
Thank you.
been a group effort. It's not me. This group has just been very engaged and hammered down. It's been exciting.
Paul?
I'm good. I can't go without saying this. I agree with this level of certification because I fight on one side and the other. But whenever 2 or more gather together, I've got to say, it would be very easy for West Virginia to say, we're only going to have EMTs, paramedics, and CCT. The reason we have 7 levels is trying to get someone before they're an EMT to be able to get on a truck and provide service. Somebody while they're in paramedic class to be able to go provide ALS. Somebody that if you can't afford an entire CCT, that you can do C3 or C2. So the levels that we have out there, even though it is complex in one area, I think we've come a long way to where now it's almost like where MVOs can move into EMT classes and there's more of a bridge transition in EMTs to ACTs to paramedics to C3s to class 2s to class 1s. And I know that those levels are there, but I don't know the other answer. I know it does put more boots on the ground. I can absolutely prove that, I think, in big squads and little squads, but it is challenging. The other thing that I really want to applaud this group for, too, is the fact that we're in other states and stuff, and if you have a county-by-county system, it's like what you do here is not what you do here. West Virginia has always been unique because of the population level and stuff like that we might as well be statewide. And I like to chap against statewide as much as anybody sometimes, but there is a real value that if you go outside where you go, I don't know what this agency can do versus 2 miles down the road, at least we're trying to give a format. And to keep the price the cost as low as possible is another step in the right direction. I think those other programs are good, but I think that is that. I appreciate, the one thing I appreciate with Shane is that all these certification levels, that everybody's expiration dates are running out, and it just seems like it's a constant struggle of trying to match what people are, but I don't know the real other answer for that, so keeping it there would be great.
And the other piece that you probably need to understand as well, because you don't see all the background behind this, is legislators were very clear to me that the direction of MSAC was going to be to communicate with small squads and fix the squads that are failing. Okay, that, you're going to do this, you know, that's what MSAC's job is going to be. We are going to do what they ask us to do. So when you start this process, you got to identify the problem. So we spent a lot of time researching what's the problem, what's the problem, what's the problem. Is it that EMT providing patient care? That's not the problem. The problem is, and what we identified in a lot of these squads that are having issues, and a lot of the squads that are closed, is that the people running those squads couldn't financially manage a squad. It was a volunteer department that somebody got elected to that position and didn't really know how to do that position. You would be amazed at how many administrators don't know how to recertify their people. They have no idea how to even start the process. So when you add up all these things, you're like, my goodness, this is common knowledge that people should be able to do. So how do you fix that?
You make the administrator required to be an EMS provider, I think that would be the first step.
Most of them are, and they still don't know how to recertify themselves. You know, so these are things that we have to address and we have to fix, and that's why you see the camera here, you see the live streaming, because we're doing everything that we possibly can to reach these small squads. If you can't afford to be here, you can live stream it, you can watch them on video when we're done. We're going to try to do everything that we can to get information to these small squads. If they choose not to participate, you know, and they're not doing well in their licensure, and that squad's failing, well, now we have another tool that we can come in and help you and try to provide you with this knowledge to get you up and going and try to get you turned back around. So that was the idea behind it when the whole thing started, was that there's got to be a mechanism here, but we have to identify the problem, and the problem wasn't the provider providing care.
I understand what you're saying. I guess my question would be, though, when we participate in the agency renewal of their licensure, we look at their financial statements, we look at their insurance, we look at all these things. So in that assessment that is done by the state office, we would know right away those agencies that aren't meeting those standards. I'm not taking away what you're saying. I'm just concerned that we've just become, it's a complex, complicated, I'm wondering if we're our own enemy here when it comes to the continuing levels of, well, let me check the code, or let me check the policy here, or let me get back to you, which never gets back to you. And then, you know, what's supposed to happen? We just keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and I think at some point, maybe we look at the situation, well, maybe we're the problem. Okay, and when I say we're, I'm talking the entire system, from the state agency on down. And maybe it needs a reset with a real solid look about what we're doing. But I think just continuing to add more certifications, more credentials. I don't know, like I said, I just don't see EMS progressing. I see it regressing. And the proof is in the pudding when, you know, in Fayette County, my home county has had a probably 80% reduction in paramedic providers over the last 20 years. So I can't help but say, oh, well, we're moving forward, we're making advances, but yet I'm getting a BLS response on a cardiac arrest. I don't know. That's just my.
I'm gonna take one more out at Rita.
Yes.
Thanks.
My question is a little different. Clinton, have you guys considered with the class that you're developing of getting it nationally approved, so those who want to, because a lot of the, like the 7 pillars and the test for management, you just have to have so many hours. So can you get that class approved so that people who wanted to take those tests and get the national certification?
Yeah, we haven't even gone that far, hadn't even come up in discussions, but I think it would be worthy to take a look at it and see if the content could be approved.
Because most of it's just you have to have so many hours and
Yeah.
certain topics and it's approved by
Yeah,
them.
that may be
That way
a
we're
good
going to
ticket.
provide the class, we can provide the.
Yeah. Yeah, haven't talked about it, but good idea.
The second thing that I asked Connie for this group to to think about, to work on is, like she said, an attaboy program. Our performance improvement process is not punitive, it's for best practices, improving areas that we identify. And the areas of improvement, those are working well. But every month we see outstanding crew performance and skills proficiencies. MedCom sends in where folks have gone above and beyond. And we want a system-wide way to recognize those folks and to give them recognition, to identify where those good things are going on in EMS. We need those positive stories, not only for ourselves, but to communicate out to the communities that we serve so they see the good resource that they have in you. So that is what I had asked Connie and this group to work on, a system-wide way to recognize folks and give out those attaboys.
So I've only came up with a couple. This was handed over or suggested to me at the end of April. And this is where I used to work in the community center. Successful resuscitation in the field. That would be one. Field deliveries. And I think it would be nice if this could be shared like on the OEMS website. Leave off, the pertinent data that identifies, people that may be put in the squads or the individuals in their squads. And it's like, Kanawha County EMT or helps deliver, 220 boys. And, and stuff like that. So what I'm asking it for you all, and we're kind of getting limited on our time, which, we can bleed over into the safety, which is coming up next, because that's going to be pretty much cut and dry, at least I think it will be. What do you all think would be a good attaboy? What are some of the criteria that you guys would like to see added?
Successful search and rescue, getting something like that with medical care, trauma care, whatever.
I promise I'm not going to kill the baby literally. What's interesting about this concept, I want kudos. We had American Heart, I used to be president of the American Heart Association, I think back in the 80s, 90s, and we had a Phoenix program. And it was the coolest program ever. We had the best pins, the best certificates, the best everything. I mean, I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we would go all across the state. And so the idea is that if you had, and we kept raising the criteria, so basically it wasn't ROSC or return to spontaneous circulation. You basically had to have someone that came back to meaningful existence, which basically meant you could interact with your family, talk with your, friends, whatever it is. So you had that kind of one situation. We probably had 30 or 40 people that came back to that. What ended up happening, what we always say is HIPAA killed Phoenix. Nothing else could, but it did in a heartbeat, because what we found out is that some of these individuals that we brought back, and if you start to think about the drug culture right now, maybe they don't want to know that they were brought back. We keep thinking it's grandpa at the Christmas tree and everybody's back, and now on New Year's, they're back home with their family. But there's this wide range of people that got into situations where they went into the respiratory cardiac arrest. There was a whole team of people that was brought back. At its zenith, we would give out probably 7 or 8 certificates. I would drive all over the state with this team, and we would give it out to the fire truck that first responded, that maybe did CPR. Then it came down to the person that was driving. You had that direct care all the way up through the hospital, and so everybody was part of a team. It was in the newspapers. It was outstanding. And then it all came down to, well, you can identify the person. And so if it is the twin deliveries, well then that kind of makes it how many twins were born on a certain time or month. The other thing that we have is on the deliveries, what we're delivering now that Welch and other hospitals are shutting down in Summersville is now we're getting 45-minute transports on a delivery of a typical they don't have prenatal care and they're drug addicted, and now they're in the back of our trucks for 35 minutes trying to get them, to hopefully not deliver before they arrive. So we may have to think about that. I think it's a great idea. I think you're gonna have to work right from the beginning on the HIPAA part about not identifying it, and that's terrible because how do you identify, because we keep doing this, how do you give a kudos to an individual that doesn't then therefore in a small community identify who that might be? So if we can get past that part, I think it's outstanding. And then the other one would be STEMI.
Can there not be, for instance, I know you're mentioning certain criteria that need to be met. I know that when I worked at HealthNet, for instance, Clinton had a Praise a Peer program. What about like some sort of a nominating process that goes to one of these committees? And if you see somebody that did something outstanding, regardless of what the criteria was, you submit a nomination, and then they, when the committee meets, they review that, and based on whatever they decide, then those are the people that are recognized. It may not be that there was somebody that was found or that somebody delivered a baby. Somebody may have done something outstanding in our field that didn't meet that criteria that needs to be recognized. So I think more of a nomination process and a committee that meets to decide that would probably maybe help to recognize some people that otherwise would go unnoticed.
And I think there's other things too you can think about is like your community safety events. I mean, there's a lot of things that mean good patient care outcomes that affect that. It may be somebody who loves going out doing the kid events. It may be someone who excels in the amount of education they take. There's, I think, a lot of other factors too you can look at.
Why don't we create a nomination form and put on the site? So you can send that.
You already have a process where Medical Command identifies outstanding runs. You already have categories that have been selected and runs that are being identified by experienced paramedics who are working and reviewing all of those calls. I would like to suggest that you have a committee that looks at using those. I mean, it's already in place.
Are those only those particular ones? Those can only be nominated by people that work in the medical command centers, right?
Well, I'm not saying that this would be the only thing that you would use,
Right.
but I'm saying that this is something that's already in place,
I
could
think that's what
quickly
you
be
would get
used.
at, something that's accessible.
And yes, it is Medical Command people who are putting them in.
So after Medical Command puts that in, where does this go?
Right now,
Right now, where does that go?
Right now, it goes into a report and goes to management at WVOEMS. Other than that, it goes no place.
Well, I think that's what we're asking, is that it don't just get filed away somewhere, that we're able to.
Yeah, and what I'm suggesting is at least look at that and then use that as, if not, I'm not suggesting that be the only thing, but it would be an easy way for you to review it. Maybe the medical command person wasn't correct in what they did, and you don't want to recognize a particular individual, but it's already in the system. You've already got documentation. You already know the run sheet numbers that we can run back to. Seems to me it would be an easy way to work.
If I may, I would like to second what Jamie said about that form and second what Dylan said, because I think that Medical Command does get an overall view of a call when they get the report on it, but I think that the people out in the field running side by side with each other are a much better tell of an outstanding moment in EMS.
Yeah, because I don't think it can be just about the call itself. I think that if you have a call where you have an overdose and there was an infant that was left there and something that was done by the crew to I don't know, I'm just throwing out a scenario that there was something above and beyond that's outstanding that they should be recognized for. And when somebody calls me in a management role and makes me aware of that, then there needs to be a forum that I can get on and share the story with within the guidelines of what's permissible, like.
And what I'm
you said.
hearing, just muttering and
Yeah.
under the breath stuff, is that, Medical Command doesn't see every call. We're talking about
Yeah.
things maybe even outside where the patient doesn't get transported. There's a lot of
Yeah,
other things
that's
that
what I
go
was
on.
getting at, yeah.
So,
Right. the medical man could be one,
Yeah.
and then this could be the other, and then it could be the other.
Have two pathways. Have
The more the merrier.
Yeah, let's
So
start.
we're gonna take the
Do that, and
nomination
then do
form,
the other nominating
perhaps.
form. It's more recognition, it's
We
more.
want the those nominated
back.
command to be exclusive. I'll send it out to you guys to approve, and then we'll post it.
And just look at the HIPAA situation, which isn't, HIPAA doesn't kill everything. It just means that you can't identify a specific time, place, and individual all in the same. So you have to leave a couple of those items out. So we're never gonna use names, we know that. And we don't want to use the exact time, like 10 o'clock
Do
on
you want to
Saturday.
develop a
So,
form and send it to me?
what's that?
You want to develop a nomination form and send it to me?
Why don't you develop a nomination form? So, yeah, we'll try to work together on it, but we'll see what we can do with that.
And is there a way that we can get the information from these command centers? That way we can compile what we're looking at?
Yeah, there's gonna have to be a committee or something to meet. It's gonna have
Yeah,
to
do
be a
you want to appoint a
multifaceted-
subcommittee?
Right.
I mean,
If I could make a suggestion also, if you have a committee that's gonna oversee that, I love the idea of a nomination form, because it gives an individual an opportunity to put that in writing, exactly how they saw that situation, and then it can be vetted through the run sheet information. The committee would have access to that particular run sheet, they're the one that vets it for HIPAA restrictions, to make sure that it's compliant when they send the information out. If somebody's going to be awarded something, whether it's recognition or an actual award, they can vet that first. But I also would think that a subcommittee might want to consider putting together a rubric so that every single person is judged equally on that. It's not terribly difficult to do, takes a little bit of time, but that ensures that, that everybody's being graded the same.
You want to
So
create a subcommittee real quick?
we need to create a subcommittee on this. Do I have volunteers for it?
and
Beth wanted on it, she's already
I got
on it.
Beth on it.
Bree, you know you're on it.
with the permission of WBOEMS's management, I will certainly provide the data to those on the committee from the MedCom.
Two on this subcommittee?
Rita's on it, Beth's on it.
Chad Weinbrenner?
Are you getting their names, Jamie? Are you getting their names? Okay. Make sure you give all the information to Jamie, okay?
Back up here.
We've got 5 minutes left, so let's try to get through this. I want to do the proposed EMS.
It's very brief. We have some proposed revisions to the EMS rule. According to our attorney, section 3, systems and operations, where it establishes the duty of county commissions to provide emergency ambulance services, DHHR doesn't have the authority to delegate that to county commissions. So there's going to be some changes to the wording there to soften that up a bit. So the whole section 3, there will be some wording changes. In section 5, 5.1, K1A through 5.1, K2, that is all going to be changed to reflect the recommendations of the safety committee from MSAC to reflect CAS standards. Section 6, given that the certification cycle has been extended to 4 years, there will be some proposed fee increases there. And then in section 7, everywhere that it says fines, that verbiage will be changed to penalty. So those are the proposed changes. Of course, there will be a 30-day comment period. It's my understanding that those will be filed around the end of June. So the comment period will be in July, but I wanted to let this body know before those came out what the proposed changes will look like. Yes?
What's the fee increase that you're proposing?
For example, recertification from $25 to $50. And that's in line with like the dental hygienist. It's still a little bit lower than like dental hygienist, respiratory therapist. They're all between $50 to $100 for recertification, so it's just taking that up to $50.
But that's for a year.
Correct.
So, I mean, it would basically, it's a wash really, if you want to look at it. You're going from a 2 to a 4.
The legal recognition solution.
Legal recognition. Yes. Any other questions related to that? Any heartburn or? Okay, thank you. I thought that would be quick.
Good. Real quick on, the triage tags, and I'm not really for sure what it's got, but we're just gonna carry it over real quick. The state found a few cases of the triage tags. So our recommendation is that we use up the stock that we have, and we're gonna revisit maybe advancing into the new century that we're in, after all of these are gone. Okay? Anything else? Okay.
If you haven't proposed what it's gonna look like, if you can kinda give us a heads up, cause it took us like 2 years to get those purchased.
Yeah, well, we're looking at these, but we have to get the cost first.
We're looking at something that's commercial, it's already developed and
Okay.
ready to go.
It wouldn't have to be designed.
Are you adjourned?
Sample.
And I think, yeah,
Yeah, we're adjourned.